live streaming. Thank you. We have apologies. We have apologies from Councillor Flaherty and Pope. Anyone else? Don't see any hands. Sorry. Oh, wait, sorry. Councillor Donnelly. Apologies for Paul Duffy. Right. Declarations of interest. The chair to ask if there are any declarations of interest from the floor, or are the members happy to declare them as the meeting progresses? Happy enough? Right. Thank you. And we take agenda item 3, business plan report. You have it there in front of you. Are there any questions? I don't see any hands. Good enough to move on then. And we go on to information item. And if you have any questions? Don't see any hands again. Okay, and we can move on to, sorry. Yeah, right. Moving on to agenda item 4, environmental health report. And I can ask Gillian to give this report.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members, colleagues. Members, I take you to item 4.1, a decision item. This is based on the multi-agency work-related deaths liaison agreement, and ask members to approve the investigation of this agreement, which sets out liaison between Council, the Health and Safety Executive for Northern Ireland Police Service, and the Police Ombudsman. Members, there has been an agreement in place with these bodies for some years, and this revised agreement updates that should a fatality arise from an incident in connection with work. There are various regulatory bodies that share responsibility for enforcement of health and safety in this situation. And so, members, I recommend to you that the agreement is approved and signed. Thank you, members.
Thank you, Gillian. As this is a decision item, I seek a proposer and a seconder. Councillor Donnelly proposing. We have a seconder, Councillor McCauley.
Yes, Chair. Happy enough to second. Yeah.
Right. Thank you. Noted. Okay. Right. No other questions? That's okay. We can move on to item 4.2, information items. Okay, information item. And then on to item 4.3, the 6-monthly update in relation to pilot arrangements to support littering, dog filing offences enforcement within the borough. Is there any questions on that? That'll be enough to move on. And item 4.4, animal welfare. Be any questions on that? Councillor Hawken, have you hand raised?
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, I had my hand up there at the beginning just to say, put apologies in for Councillor Catherine Nelson. But just on the matter of item 4.4 around animal welfare, I just wanted to ask you a question. It was an interesting report. I mean, there's a lot to it, and it's obviously cross-cutting through a lot of agencies, but the general consensus, and I have to say I would agree, is that when these cases are heard through the courts, and you know, there's a long process before that gets there, and there's a lot of hard work involved. General feeling, and as I say, I would tend to agree, is that the court rulings tend to be very lenient in the public eye, and I found that myself. So my question would be, do the officers feel, or does the officer feel like there could be a better deterrent if there was increased kind of impact on those who are brought before the courts, or are they happy with where we currently sit?
Gillian, do you want to take that? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Horan, for the question and for the interest. The matter of sentencing does sit with the courts and the judiciary, and I know that the animal welfare sectors have contributed to a report which was submitted to DOJ, which did highlight matters which we felt could have been addressed perhaps in a more stronger manner. The courts do operate within sentencing guidelines, and I think it would be fair to say that the matter of sentencing does sit with the magistrate that would hear the case. And I appreciate that that can often look to be lenient in the public eye. In terms of a deterrent, one of the main things which I know as councils we seek would be a banning order, which would be banning people from keeping animals. But also I think it is fair to comment that in cases which are brought before the court, animal welfare officers would see a wide range of issues which would have led to that outcome. And sometimes it is neglect, it may be financial, and also sometimes regrettably it is the folk can barely look after themselves, never mind animals. And so I think, members, we are seeing that increasingly, and therefore we do also take that into account, and I am sure that the courts take that into account whenever they're looking at sentencing. But it is, I suppose, to summarise, it is something which council representatives have raised through the appropriate channels over the past few years. But sentencing does sit in the hands of the particular court magistrate.
Thank you, Gillian, and apologies, Councillor Horan, for missing your hand earlier on. Alderman Baxter.
Sorry, Chair, and it's unrelated. It was just an apology. I meant to put at the start for Councillor McDonald. I forgot to just do that. Sorry, Chair, for indulging me.
On to item 4.5, and there's a presentation on emergency preparedness awareness, and I'm going to ask Glenn to do the presentation.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, members. I'll go again. Thank you, members. Sorry about that. That's technology, I think, after 2 years of this sorted. But basically, this is just a very brief overview for members on the overview of Council's emergency planning arrangements. And I'll just quickly, I'm sure most people have had an opportunity to look at the presentation. Just quickly move through the some of the slides. So over the last year or so, there's been a number of updates around civil contingencies arrangements within Northern Ireland. There was a new Executive Office published document, Building Resilience Together, which was built around 3 pillars of prepare, respond and recover. There's a resilience strategy issued in 2020, which we're halfway through. And importantly for the members in this organisation is the emergency response plan that was shared with members a few months ago. So this is really just an update to bring those sort of 3 strands together. I'll not bore you with the definitions of emergency or major incident, but many members will have experienced a wide range of situations that arise and impact on the life of our communities. And there's some examples of that are on display there. So we have a lot of severe weather issues. We have the rain, with wind, the security alerts, the dust clouds, gas leaks, a pandemic. So the list is long. So this is really just an opportunity to update all the members on our role in that. I suppose we play an important role in 6 areas. We're a very important member of a multi-agency partnership in that preparation phase, response phase, and also a very important role in the recovery phase. And members will be aware that we have very strong links with the PSNI, the Fire Service, the local trust, St John's, and indeed the Met Office. And it really does take everyone to play their part to minimise the impact of an emergency on our communities. So I suppose through that, we really play a vital role in communicating with our communities, both before incidents happened and during incidents. And that's very evident over the last couple of days with the weather warning, and indeed another weather warning issued for tomorrow. In addition to that, we provide emergency support centres, and members will be aware that is really to provide temporary accommodation for those people who have to be evacuated out of their home as a result of could be flooding or indeed security alert or a gas leak as we've had recently. So we are critical that we provide that through our leisure centres and community centre buildings, and that is in line with an agreed process with the PSNI and indeed the Fire Rescue Service. As a council, we provide a certain level of expertise through environmental health and also our building control. That's dangerous structures, advice on what to do with food and event power cuts and simple things like that. And indeed our environmental services have a huge amount of resource to support other agencies in the event of an emergency. And there are a number of MOUs in place regarding that. Also, our role is to lead recovery. So once the threat to life has passed, it is our responsibility to lead the recovery phase within the community. And also we're there to support our communities, and that is in a different number of phases. We administer the scheme of emergency financial assistance following flooding, and we also have a number of community resilience groups set up across the borough to help them mitigate the impact of severe weather. I suppose just looking at how we actually do all this good stuff, we are part of a wider external structure which is aligned with the PSNI structure. So we are part of a Southern Emergency Preparedness group which runs from Belcoo to Bangor across the southern part of Northern Ireland. So we are part of that along with the other local councils and a trust and PSNI, Fire Brigade, St John's Ambulance. And I just want to maybe provide some further detail on, I suppose, our internal structures, how this is delivered locally. So within council, we have an emergency planning implementation group, or EPIG for short, and that is made up of a number of directors, heads of service, and our communications team. And we meet on a quarterly basis and review our work plan for the year. That involves looking at existing incidents or training and really keeping the organisation aware of the responsibilities and actions that we need to take to respond to emergencies. We have an emergency management team that would be activated, and that is made up of the EPIG members and also EMT. So in the event of an emergency and that the emergency response plan is activated, that group will meet. Our emergency response plan that I mentioned earlier on really just sets out the framework how we respond to particular incidents and the roles and responsibilities there with council and the escalation arrangements as well. And just for information, we do have on-call arrangements to support our partners. So that our blue light services, we will support them. That'll be a call to our on-call number, and we'll support them at any, that's a 24/7 service. So internally, that is a very quick and brief overview of our internal structures and plans. And really importantly for members, most members will have played a very important civic leadership role in an emergency, and often we find that the feedback from the ground is normally very helpful. And I think really it's an important point and an important role that members play is to share messages from other agencies to help all organisations involved in emergency response to cut through a lot of the noise, and that messaging is coming from appropriate sources. And I will just finish off by saying about emergency communications. Internally, we have a dedicated text messaging service that will be used in the event of a significant incident. So members would receive a text from a ABC council number, and normally that is for information and awareness of a significant event. And examples would include where homes have been evacuated, or indeed the most recent one, the amber weather warning back over the summer. These messages will be short and concise and will include advice on further communication, and some of that might be sensitive. And we'll be testing that with members over the next couple of weeks. So you'll be getting a message from the ABC Council text awareness system. And that's, Chair, that is me. If there's any questions, happy to take.
Thank you, Glenn, for that very informative presentation. Any questions? I don't see any hands raised. Happy enough to move on. Thank you. We'll move on to agenda item 5, environmental service report. And I'm going to ask Barry to give this presentation.
Thank you, Chair. Evening, members. So 5.1 is a request for 2 events to take place in the Palace Domain Public Park. The first is for the Ulster Cross League Round 9 race, and that's going to be on Sunday, the 4th of December. And the second event is the Ulster Secondary Schools District D Cross Country race, which is planned to take place on Friday, the 20th of January. Both of these events have happened in our annual events in the park and have run for a number of years. Officers have looked at them and have no particular concerns in relation to the events themselves. The park will remain open. Staff are content that if there is superficial damage, obviously if it's very wet and you have people either running or cycling over things, it can take a period of time for that to be fixed again. But again, officers are content with that. Both of the events would request also that we would allow traders to be at the different events for those participating or for those attending in the park. Both of the events have been looked at in relation to equality screening and have been screened out because there are no significant issues. So really it's up to members to decide, are they content to allow these 2 events to take place as detailed within the report. Happy to take any questions, Chair.
Thank you, Barry. I don't see any hands raised, and as this is a decision item, I need a proposer and a seconder. So, Councillor Donnelly. Thank you. Still need a seconder here, members. Councillor Macaulay.
Happy to second.
Thank you, Councillor Macaulay. Move on to item 5.2, and it's an information item. That's here with carbon strategy. So if anybody any questions on Alderman Baxter?
Thank you, Chair. And I am aware that we've previously agreed to appoint this consultant to develop this strategy, just given the latest financial issue that we're in, and we talked about suspending all discretionary spend. How far are we down this process, and would it not be prudent maybe to pause this and maybe put it into the estimates working group to see if this is actually now affordable, given the dire financial position that we now find ourselves in? Or legally, Jonathan, through you, Chair, have we went too far already given the letter out as opposed to this company, or where are we?
Yes, thank you. And through the Chair, approval was sought in relation to the appointment of this consultant to provide support to develop a net zero carbon strategy for the borough. That was previously approved and that has now been appointed. So that appointment letter has went out to the consultant in relation to where we sit in terms of withdrawing that, we would need to look at the procurement aspect associated with that, but just to confirm that that has been appointed.
Want to come back in again, Alderman Baxter?
Yeah, I think I would be maybe more comfortable maybe if we could get that information and maybe bring it back even to full council, just to see where we are in terms of, because, you know, there's lots of other things that have been paused. I'm just conscious maybe this is somewhere maybe where savings could be identified given, you know, how bad a financial shape that we're in and we're looking toward over the next lot of months.
Thank you, Chair. If I could just come in on the back of my colleague and ask, had we any indication as to what the financial spend would be in relation to this?
Thank you, Alderman Beatty. Jonathan?
I don't have the exact figures with me tonight, but certainly if members are in agreement, I could bring that back to council if the recommendation was approved.
Happy.
Okay. I need a proposal in the seconder now to go into committee for consideration of the confidential items of business. Members and online viewers, in accordance with the Schedule 6 of the Local Government Act, we will now be moving into confidential session of the council. This means that we will be turning off the public feed of the meeting. This will be returned when the meeting is restarted. Can I ask ICT officers to please turn off the feed and confirm with me when the confidential section of this meeting again, an open session. Thank you. Agenda item 7, correspondence. I don't think there was any correspondence. No, we don't have any correspondence. And agenda item 8, any other relevant business? I don't think there is anything on that list. So that is the meeting concluded. So thank you very much, everyone. And safe journey home for those that are here. Good night, everyone.